Radio.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Cryptocurrent. Your host here, Richard Carthon. Today, we got a very special one for you. We're learning about a really, really cool wallet and that handles both DeFi, NFTs, and so much more. We have Emile, who's the CEO of XDEFI Wallet. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Richard.
No doubt, man. Well, calling all the way out from Amsterdam, you got a lot of really cool things going on. But first, before we learn more about XDEFI Wallet, let's learn more about you. Can you give us a little bit of background on yourself?
Yeah, for sure. So, I've started my career in TradFi back in the days, around 10 years ago. I was an equity analyst focusing on US tech. In the meantime, I built a few companies, worked for consulting firms, and work for large financial software companies such as Bloomberg, Reuters, etc. So it's been a long way from my beginnings in TradFi to DeFi and crypto in general. And since 2017, more or less, I'm down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, so going from traditional finance, and it's so interesting to meet so many people who come from that background into now the world of Web3. I have the same kind of background as well. So 2017, you learned more about the space. Tell us about what was that first introduction, and then what made you decide this is the direction I now want to head?
So, I mean, like the first time I heard about crypto was like in 2012, 2013, back in the days, like I was an equity analyst, very much focused on value investing and fundamentals. At the time, I had a really good friend of mine, like an engineer, was talking a lot about Bitcoin. And at the time, I was not really convinced. I couldn't really grasp the value behind Bitcoin itself. And I think I really got into like crypto when Ethereum came up. So back in 2015. So that's really when I got into crypto. I think for me, what kind of changed is 2019. So I kind of changed my investment thesis as an investor myself, as I was investing for myself. Until 2019, I was really focused on Ethereum. I couldn't really see like any other ecosystem, like coming and killing Ethereum. But I guess in 2019, seeing like a lot of new great projects that has strong value propositions and strong teams, I started like thinking about, okay, maybe this space is actually going to be multi-chain in the future. So I started to look a little bit more into interoperability plays. That's when, and I was really into synthetics, like at the time, heard about Thorchain in the synthetic Discord. So try to understand a bit more what they were building, discussing with the core dev team, and started investing in Rune. So that's I guess like the first time I stepped outside of Ethereum really and tried to understand like what could possibly happen in a potential multi-chain future. Obviously, like since then, like the multi-chain thesis has been validated. I think we've seen that with all the new ecosystem that have emerged. Obviously, there was Solana, there was Terra, there was Cosmos, there was Polkadot as well, and obviously like all the layer 2 and sidechains around Ethereum. So it's been an interesting like journey, I would say. I'll explain a bit afterwards, like how we came up with XDEFI Wallet, but that's really very much like actually entrenched into like Thorchain.
Yeah, it's really interesting that like your first dive, your first love was Ethereum, and then you kind of expand it from there. Again, very similar background for myself. Like I learned about Bitcoin, Ethereum, but Ethereum really piqued my interest. And so I started looking into this more and started looking more into some of these other alts and just looking at all the various use cases, and scalability and interoperability was also something that always sparked my curiosity. And if you got into Rune early, let's just say that's panned out pretty well for you, depending on the timing of it. But even just for conceptually to like see how these things can continue to become more interoperable, it makes a lot of sense for where the future is headed. And I think we're headed towards a more interoperable future. So that kind of brings us to present day XDEFI Wallet. So what is it? What was the thesis behind it? And what are y'all currently working on?
So, well, essentially, So I'll just continue where I left. But essentially what happens is during the crash in March 2020, I started buying like more Rune and getting more involved in the Torchain ecosystem. And I was obviously like all the time speaking with one of my best friend, David, that I've met like in a previous company back in 2017. Started to think about like, okay, how can we help the Torchain ecosystem? We're thinking about running nodes, creating arbitrage bots, doing stuff that like we know how to do. And after a little while and discussing with the core team, we realized that like we could do much more than that. I think, back in the days, like most of the DeFi volume was going via web clients. You had tons of wallet out there on the mobile side of things, wallet that were only focusing on Ethereum, or that were multi-chain, somewhere custodial or the non-custodial. But you only really had MetaMask as an extension. And as most of the volume was going via web clients, we realized that there was a massive gap in the market that needed to be addressed, not just for Torchain and to help like any users to interact with all the interfaces that are built on Torchain, but for the future and the ecosystem that we're about to emerge. So, coming from these statements, we decided to build XDEFI Wallet, kind in a way of like, okay, well, we don't have that for ourselves. We need it as power users, so we're going to build it for ourselves. And turns out that like it's actually not just useful for the Torchain ecosystem, but for everyone. We all know the pain associated with dealing with plenty of different wallets. If you want to navigate across like Solana, Cosmos, Ethereum, you need to have like Kepler, Phantom, MetaMask, etc., which is like obviously quite cumbersome and complicated to handle. So that's really like where it all started. We basically discussed with the core dev team at Torchain, and we said, look, like we have the experience and the skills to actually build a team around us and build a multi-chain non-custodial wallet extension. And that's exactly what we did. And yeah, since then, like we grew the company by quite a lot. We raised several rounds, and here we are.
Which is amazing. Like you start with a hardcore community that makes a ton of sense to you. You kind of branch out and you solve a problem that you were immediately facing. You're like, I know other people are facing this too. Like how can we be of service? How can we help? And then you've been able to expand it, grow your community, and get a lot more people into it. So you are now able to send crypto NFT across 15 blockchains, which again, that is a huge undertaking. Walk us through like how were you able to build it to this point, and like what are the features it has now, and where are you growing to?
So when we started building XDEFI Wallet, we had two main challenges. The first one was a UX challenge. Okay, so we built XDEFI agnostic from the ground up. We didn't like first build XDEFI for Ethereum and then like expand it to other blockchain. We started already like by integrating directly like Ethereum, Bitcoin, and a Binance chain, and then we grow from there. But essentially, like this is how our wallet structure is made. And the two main challenges that we had basically was first UX, then like the infrastructure, the back end perspective. So UX, why? Because there was no really benchmark for us. So that's one thing, to take a product and improve it. If we had to recreate like a MetaMask, we would have done it differently than what we've done with XDEFI Wallet, simply because they are only supporting Ethereum and EVM-based networks. So we had to think about, okay, how do we abstract the concept of chain? How do we abstract the fact that like each chain has different characteristics? How can we create like a coherent and streamlined user experience, taking this into consideration, which is complicated, which I think that we have solved. We basically about to release like a new UX UI in the next 2 months, which is going to be essentially summarizing all the efforts from a UX perspective that we've done like in the last 2.5 years, and that I think is going to help tremendously like from a UX point of view when it comes to dealing with a multi-chain wallet. So that's the first thing, really, like UX. How can we improve this? Like plenty of small things as well, like not having to change the network at the top to see like all of your assets in one single screen, to see like your total balance without having to reconcile this manually by clicking all of the different network that you interact with your wallet, etc. So UX.
Real quick, I just want to spend 2 more seconds on that, because I know a lot of people who come into the space have experience with MetaMask, and I can also echo that it is extremely frustrating, even though it's a couple more steps to go and have to constantly change the blockchain that you're on, whether you're on Ethereum or Avalanche or Binance or any of these, and then having to switch and then see the coins for each of those. Like it, just the UX of having all of that on one screen and be able to like go through all that. That alone is extremely like so helpful. So I needed to just like really drill that home.
The way I look about it, the way I look into this is pretty simple. I think that like if we want to have a lot of people onboarded into a Web3, and obviously like a lot of these people are coming from centralized exchanges like Coinbase, Binance, and so on, we do need to create like a UX which is kind of mirroring what they've done. Which is obviously complicated in the decentralized and non-custodial world, but nonetheless possible. By that I mean, like, I don't think people really care about like which chain they are interacting with. They do, but they care more specifically about the assets they have. So for me, it's how can we like take this into consideration when we design like our interface? And I think, you know, like in the new UX UI, and I think like the current UX UI is already pretty good, I reckon. But I think the new one is going to help a lot. Just I'll give you an example because you touched base on that. But essentially, like for instance, I have USDC, okay, on 3 or 4 networks. It's pretty like annoying to have to switch between the different network and reconcile this manually. Like, so in the new UX UI that we going to release, for instance, you're going to have one single balance for your USDC. Then you're going to be able to click on it and see the breakdown and see like, okay, I have some USDC, that much. That's my balance on Phantom. That's my balance on mainnet. That's my balance. And I think that helps. I think this is pretty important. So how can we reproduce like a centralized like UX in a decentralized fashion? That's been like a massive challenge, and I think like people are going to be pretty surprised and happy about the new UX, because that's really like where we've put our efforts. Now, I think the second challenge, and it's very much like linked to what I've explained, because our cross-chain API is allowing us to do stuff like from a UX perspective that we couldn't do before. When we started building XDEFI wallets, and it's still the case to an extent today, like blockchain APIs in general, they were not really built to cater for the multi-chain era. So for us to scale to, and I think today we have like, as of yesterday, we had like around 130,000 weekly active users as per the Chrome store. We had to combine 17 different APIs, which means that we have like plenty of different point of failures. We have inconsistent response formats. We have rate limiting left, right, and so on, which results into like not a great performance, and also like a dev experience that is absolutely, not great. So what we've done in the last 12 months, and that requires like obviously like a lot of efforts and investments, is to build our own cross-chain indexes. So essentially, we've built our own APIs for all the chain that we support. It includes NFT indexes, and we also like indexing from block 0. So basically looking at all the data since block 0, which is really time consuming. It's not yet live. We still like testing it. We're almost done with most of the indexes, but it's going to take a little bit of time for us to make sure it's scalable and working properly. I mean, at least to the standards that we want to reach. So that's an important, that's an important thing, because we're a wallet provider, obviously, but to an extent, we also like almost an API provider. Which is only for us to use, but that's a lot of the work that we've done, and that I don't think people see, because it's not something that like we obviously like advertise on Twitter and so on, and that speaks to people. But for the engineers out there, I think that they will understand and see how complicated it is to do that and on infrastructure.
It is, and I do want to echo how big of an infrastructure and just technically challenging feat that y'all are going for to both have a really easy to understand user interface that can put all that information, and then to add a DEX to it. So for your everyday user right now, let's say that you're on MetaMask and then you're trying to now go over to the Solana network and you're trying to cross over a lot of things. You have to use bridges. You have to go and do a ton of steps. And you're also going to be losing money a lot of the way as you're providing liquidity to both bridges, doing dexes, all this stuff. So now within your wallet, just to make sure I understand this right, instead of doing all that, because of the wallet you have in place, if I use your dex, I can just swap in and out of it. So let's say I have $1,000 worth of Ethereum. I really need to switch it over to Solana so I can get into some other Solana projects. I can do that on my wallet and be done.
So it's slightly different. That's another piece of I mean, like we also have a routing API in which like we are aggregating like basically plenty of bridges and DEX aggregator itself. So we kind of an aggregator of aggregator. But what I was referring to is more like how we fetch data. When you look at XDEFI Wallet, we're basically fetching like token balances, logo, transaction history, and so on, like for 15 blockchains. Meaning that like if you don't have the right infrastructure behind it, like it becomes like not great from a performance point of view. It takes time for the balances to load and so on. So having to rely to plenty of external API providers is massive limitation. And we've decided to build it ourselves. We decided to run our own infra. So for instance, if infra is down, like we're not really affected, the wallet continues to work and so on, unless our API is down, although we have some fallback. I think that's pretty important. Now, to come to the routing API, what we've done is pretty straightforward, although it hasn't been done by a lot of projects. We've obviously integrated Thorchain at first to allow for cross-chain swaps from within the wallet and now from within the web app that we've released last week. And I'll explain a little bit more about the web app afterwards. But essentially what we've decided to do is to become an aggregator of aggregator. And by that, I mean that we took Thorchain as a provider. And on top of it, we've added like OpenOcean, Paraswap, 1inch, Wormhole, multi-chain, etc., etc. We're adding Rainbow Bridge right now. We're adding Socket, which is pretty much done, Osmosis, etc. So that allows us to have like plenty of different aggregator and bridges, and for us to build on top of that a routing algorithm that allows us to basically give the ability to users to go from any chain to chain in the most efficient way, really. Which is important when you are a multi-chain wallet, obviously, because this is also the way that we are generating revenue, right? We take 0.3% on swaps. The fees are not turned on yet. It's going to be turned on by the end of the year, but that's the core part of our revenue model. And we've also put a lot of efforts in that.
Yeah. And again, being able to provide that convenience to be able to switch in and out all these different coins and ecosystems and have it all be in one place and not having to do all of this. Again, it's the end user experience that we all as you know, crypto aficionados and people in this space want to happen. It just hasn't yet. And there's a lot of disjointedness of trying to put it all together, but it looks like that y'all are getting pretty close to being able to achieve that piece of it. And I do also want to go back to the point of you being able to use your APIs to accurately reflect, you know, portfolio balances, where your money is, and how all of that is crucial, especially as, you know, if someone's trying to make a potential move to switch in and out of certain cryptos, especially if they're day trading or even if they're doing a swing trade, they need to know what they accurately have, or they're going to try to, and if they're not getting it from one place, they're going to go somewhere else because that information is crucial. So definitely understand the amount of energy time that y'all put into that. But the other thing that I know on here that y'all have been really looking into as well is just the ability for people to house their NFTs and be able to accurately reflect that. Can you kind of talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, we called XDEFI, but we obviously like supporting NFTs. I think we're one of the only wallet that are supporting NFTs across that many chains. Right now, we have support for NFTs on Ethereum, Arbitrum, Avalanche, Polygon, Binance Smart Chain, Phantom, Solana, and Near soon. I think it's important for people to be able to manage like NFTs as other assets from one single place, and again, not having to rely on several like wallets. So that's exactly what we've done in the same way that we've done it for tokens. There are a lot of other features that are going to arrive for NFTs. For instance, you're going to be able to send your NFT across all the different chains that we have. And send them directly from the wallet. You won't have to go back to OpenSea, for instance, to send individually like your NFTs. And there will be like other features that we will be announcing in the coming month, such as P2P trading and so on. It's not going to be just for now, but there will be more. Obviously, the web app is also going to support NFT. You're going to be able to display all of your NFT and manage them from one single place, which is also going to be helpful.
Definitely. And with any wallet, one of the reoccurring challenges that typically comes up as a place of where people have a bit of hesitation is around security. What kind of security and things have y'all put in place to make this wallet as secure?
So I think something I will always recommend to anyone using a wallet extension, doesn't matter which one, is to use a ledger. If you have like more than, I don't know, like 1K worth of capital in your wallet, you should be using a ledger. There is no excuse about it. It's cheap enough for you to afford it. and this is the best way for you to protect your funds. Now, obviously, like we had audits, we're making sure that like our code is properly reviewed and that everything is as secure as it gets. From a hot wallet perspective, but always for us, the most important thing is that like every time we're adding a new chain, we adding ledger support at the same time. We currently working on Trezor integration as well, so we can basically provide to our users as many options as possible. But that would be my advice. That's something we always say. If you have like some capital into crypto and you're using like a wallet extension, you should be using a ledger. That's important, and that will help a lot. There are other things that we're going to work on from security perspective that will help, such as non-custodial 2FA, which will work like pretty much as I mean, I'm sure pretty much everyone is familiar with what a 2FA is, and we also help a lot to protect your funds and NFTs in general from using your wallet.
And all of those are really crucial. And I think that's also really, helpful as well to have that cold wallet storage and, link it up, have it go through the wallet so that whenever you are ready to do transactions, you physically have to have it on your person. So you don't even have to, you can have the peace of mind of that your assets are secure. You're working on a lot of different things, and obviously you've been building this for a couple of years now. And one of the things, even just through our conversations before coming on the show around interoperability and how essential it is to the future, how are y'all continuing to push interoperability forward, and where do you see the future of interoperability headed?
So, I mean, there are a lot of things that could be said. Like, obviously, the routing API is going to help a lot because that allows you to. I see a wallet as a vehicle. Okay, this is a vehicle that is here to bring you from point A to point B. And when I say wallet here, I'm specifically speaking about like wallet extension, because to an extent we could say that like mobile wallets are also a destination for some people that are not as advanced as other users that are using extension, that want the agility to navigate across the board, across plenty of different protocols that are based on different ecosystems. So for me, the wallet extension is a vehicle, bring you from point A to point B in a fast, secure, and reliable fashion. Okay. Now, obviously, adding the routing API within it, that allows you to basically like migrate funds from one ecosystem to another really easily for you to capture opportunities that might arise like on Solana tomorrow and the day after on Polygon is crucial. What we are going to focus on next is gas management. Because the more chains you have, the more you have to put efforts into managing your gas. You need to have like a little bit of a balance of Matic or whatever to be able to perform transaction everywhere. If you have a lot of addresses and you're interacting with a lot of chains, like obviously it becomes quite a headache. So there are a few things that we're working on currently. Well, I'm not going to expand too much on that, but like you can expect like some announcements also on that, like towards the end of the year. But helping people to refuel like their addresses with the gas needed for them to interact with protocols and in general like sign an approach checks. So that's something that we're going to focus next because this is essential to improve the overall UX of the non-custodial space, I'd say.
Perfect. And yeah, I mean, it sounds like you'll have a lot of other things in the pipeline that's going to keep making that experience better. But I mean, it sounds like what's available now is super helpful. You already said that you have, hundreds of thousands of people using this already. It's continuing to grow. For someone listening to this right now, obviously you can go to xdefi.io. That's xdefi.io for more information. But where are other places that they can go and learn and participate in y'all's community?
So, I mean, there are a few things. So on xdefi.io, you have a blog. We try to create as much content as we can for people to learn about crypto if they've just onboarded, or even if they're a little bit more advanced and they want to review some topics in DeFi or in the NFT space. So you can browse across the different articles that we have in our blog section of xdefi.io. Now, for us to provide you like the best possible support, you should definitely join our Discord. We have 24/7 supports. We generally always keen to help and discuss topics and obviously receive your feedback, your suggestion features and so on. So I strongly encourage you to join the community and discuss in the Discord. I'm in there every day. We have a really good customer team. I generally don't like calling these customers. I don't think we have customers. I think we have users. But we really have a good support team and they're always happy to help. So feel free to reach out anytime. We're open to discuss about anything, whatever.
Perfect. And as we wrap up, Emile, I always like to finish with a couple of fun questions. The first one being, with all the information that you've been able to learn over the several years of building this out, if you could go impart one of two pieces of wisdom to yourself when you first started, what would you tell yourself?
That's a good question. I think you need to, before you start investing into crypto, and like obviously that's not financial advice, like you should really try to understand like what you're investing in. It's not always easy because like the technical concepts like around crypto are often like not easily accessible. So I would say try to read as much as you can. Try to look at Delphi Digital, Nansen, and other source of information that are reliable and that can help you to cross this knowledge gap. Once you're there, try to focus on like a few specific projects, understand them really well, and then make decisions rather than like just follow the crowd and whatever people are saying on Twitter or on Telegram groups. I would say try to understand the tech behind it, try to understand how it might impact the entire ecosystem and industry in the next 2 to 3 years, and base decisions on that. I will also say that I've been rugged before, okay, like several times. I've lost funds as well. I would say that like when you first create a wallet, as I said again, take the money you need to buy a Ledger wallet and make sure that like you're backing up properly your seed phrase, etc., in a safe place. And don't copy paste it in your node. Don't do that kind of things like, or send it to someone. I don't know, like be really careful out there. Be careful about people impersonating like project leads, etc. And don't trust anyone but yourself. Be safe basically. That's really important. So when it's your when you're the one controlling the destiny of your funds, you need to accept the responsibility that come with it. So that's on you if something fucks up. So be careful.
Yeah, those are two really good gems, good reminders. As you're in this space, do your own research. Make sure you're doing as much reading as possible. Understand what you're getting into, and as you look into what they're building, does it make sense? And do you think it'll be around 2-3 years from now? And then be responsible for your investments. Make sure you're protecting yourself and protecting your assets, because it's ultimately your responsibility. So I think those are two great reminders. But Emile, as we wrap up here, what is a final thought that you want to leave with everyone today?
Look, I mean, like, come try the product, give us some feedback. That's really important for us to improve. We've always been close to the community, and we always try to hear you out. So yeah, try the web app. This is the latest product that we've released. You can deposit liquidity in a single-sided fashion across 15,000 plus pools, like on across EVM networks, which is pretty cool. We have farms coming soon, so that's going to make farming really easy for you. Try the multi-chain DEX/bridge aggregator, the swap. You can swap like tons of assets via this, and just come to us and let us know like what you would like to see that you don't see right now in the wallet or in the web app, and we'll try our best to incorporate this for our backlog.
Excellent. Well, again, thank you so much for spending time with us and sharing all the knowledge. And as always, for everyone listening, stay cryptocurrent.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Cryptocurrent. Cryptocurrent is a cryptocurrency and blockchain education platform that's bridging the gap between the curious newcomers who are just discovering the space and the thought leaders who are shaping its future. All opinions expressed by Richard Carthon, the Cryptocurrent team, and their guests on this show are exclusively their own opinions. This show and any other Cryptocurrent production is exclusively for informational purposes.